program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into this exciting episode of Real Biz. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is personal brand consultant, Kortney Morningstar. Kortney, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Bubba. How are you?
I am fantastic. We finally had a little bit of a break from the brutal cold here in South Dakota. So it was like 30 degrees yesterday. It was beautiful.
Were you wearing flip-flops? Was that like South Dakota flip-flop
I was
weather?
this close. I was this close to pulling them out, Kortney. I'm really appreciative of you spending a little bit of time with us. I know that you've spent the majority of your career kind of behind the scenes, although you started out, as an artist yourself and with big dreams. But I think you're going to provide some really great insight to the nitty gritty behind and how artists actually make money. So before we get into all that, though, I just kind of want to give you the floor, let you give us a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Well, I'll tell you the story that my mom loves to hear, which is I started off as a young, passionate musician. I got tested as a savant. I was told I had the ear. So after I got out of college and everything else, I went to a major label, and I can't say which one, but it's a stacked vinyl record tower somewhere in California. And slowly over that process of listening to how they treated music as an investment only and no passion, I kind of became a little bit jaded. But then I figured out how to game the system. I guess that's the best way I could say it.
I had a great conversation with my friend Manny Fraser, and Manny worked for A&M Records back in the late 60s, early 70s. And he shared a couple of stories about how these executives would talk about how the artists just, why don't they go get day jobs? Why don't they go get jobs and the commodity that their art was. And yeah, I think it's almost hard not to be jaded by that as an artist once you get in and behind the scenes. And we're very fortunate now to live in an era where the independent artist has more power over their own careers than they ever have through, home
internet.
recording. Yeah, I say it all the time, right? I know that we can find a lot of bad things on the internet, but you find what you're looking for. For me, it's provided an opportunity to grow this network, not just, the physical podcast network, but my network of community. I live in a small rural town in South Dakota, right? Without the internet, I have nothing. I have no semblance of a career out here in the music industry, but I've been able to cover, not just big music events, but PGA Tour events. I worked at the Grand Ole Opry House back in November for the Josie Music Awards. I've interviewed over 500 artists on the Scene Projects, and even more than that we're supporting now with our shows like Unsigned Spotlight that feature over 30 artists every week and share their music with the world. Typical of what a local radio station or a local radio show used to be in days gone by. Now the industry is, at this point they're cannibalizing themselves because there are no more small fish to eat up. The big fish are eating one another as Netflix is buying iHeart, and it's crazy to watch the system as it sits now. Where do you find yourself in all of this now as someone who worked inside of it and kind of saw the inner workings of it? Where do you find yourself in the business these days?
So I am essentially fighting the good fight by taking somebody and teaching them how to be the big fish. So I am architecting their solution to famedom. And if they keep, you have something beautiful, you have the songwriters showcase, right? I was actually listening to that in the car with my 2-year-old son yesterday because I, wanted to truly know. And the song you wrote for your wife was absolutely beautiful. I'm sure she cried buckets. But I talked to parents of kids that were, waiting in line for 12 hours a day for American Idol, and their hopes and dreams are crushed. And it's not that this kid doesn't have talent. It's just they have no clue how to market themselves, how to make themselves seen. So We spend some time, we go through the stuff, and I even pulled together social media analytics and a bunch of other things just to get them seen. Because when I first started working for that big spiral building in California, you used to have to go as the ear to like a club and sit there and listen to open mic nights and decide who has the it factor, who can make eye contact, who is resonating with the crowd, who can they shape and mold into this investment project, right? And now everybody gets discovered on YouTube or social media, or one video blows up to 1 million views in less than a weekend on TikTok. And all it was a 15-second thing, but somehow, some way they got recognized that way. So I find a way to put that passionate artist into that spotlight. It's just it's a lot of different problems to pull together just to make it happen.
Well, and to help them build a business behind that. So when they get that moment in the sun, that they actually know how to grow that into a career, because
Yes.
virality doesn't do anything for you these days. You better have millions upon millions of streams or whatever for a major label to kind of sniff you out. But you can build a very solid career off of a little bit of attention. And we don't even have that, right? Like our YouTube channel had 360,000 views last year. That was over 1,500 uploads. You do the math. We're not getting these huge moments on one single video. We're just putting out so much content that we're undeniable in that. Now, where that's going to pay dividends for us and all of these artists is that when we do get that moment in the sun, we have all of these seeds that we have planted inside of that ecosystem that are going to grow. Right. We have this terrarium, right, that we've planted all the seeds in. And when the conditions are finally right, and to me, the attention is the sunlight, right? The community is the water to that. Having these people in here, sharing our knowledge with them, having everyone building their careers up, having their rights in order, and building that from the ground up with all these artists is almost more important, because what we want to do is to get everyone successful. I'm not about being famous myself. I live in a town of 1,000 people, Kortney. I'm about as famous as you'd want
I was
to
gonna
be.
say you're famous. Yeah.
Everyone knows me. I grew up in a small town. Once again, in my hometown, on the other side of the South Dakota, everyone knows me there too, right? So like I don't like that, like everybody knowing everything about you and all your business isn't the greatest thing in the world. But for other people,
It's a
they
weird
want
feeling,
that
isn't
attention.
it?
Right. Well, it was important
Yes.
for me to build that platform for them. Right. Cool. You want that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's how we're going to build out this thing. And across the board, we have a sports network. We have, a network that's more for coaching. We have this one now to feature business owners, and not just in the music industry, but really any business owner, to give them a moment to come on and to share their story, because that's what sells. Right. It's not just about good products anymore. It's not just about something that can make someone's life a little bit easier. I think people will pay a little bit more and use something that maybe isn't the cheapest and easiest, because they like the person that they're buying from.
You
And
have
in
to
music,
be able to trust and buy into that, right? And so that's what I do. I craft the solution. And you mentioned something about having all of this content, right? And I noticed this through this last week. You have so much content, you're missing the links to convert to views. Whatever that system is, it could even be something as simple as the keywords that you use for SEO purposes when you post it onto YouTube. Something minute and tiny that is preventing those conversions to views, because you have content. And there are artists that come to me and I go, okay, that's great. How many things have you uploaded into the internet? And they're like, well, I haven't started that yet. And I'm like, okay, so we don't have much content yet, but we'll figure out how to post that and go along, but most of the time it's that they've been pouring their hearts out in songwriting for so long, and they've had all these YouTube videos for 10 years. We're just missing a way for people to find you. It's literally called like a click point conversion in marketing, right? And it's just some little thing that can be fixed in there to get that exposure. You have so much content. There's just some tiny thing missing.
right. Well, and when we find that and kind of put that piece together, then we kind of unlock the entire thing. And what I've been very focused on is building out the infrastructure so that we are ready. I don't believe, I think that our moment is coming. Regardless of what the small thing is, we're going to find it. And it's taken me, we just went to YouTube like last January, where we were audio only for the
Oh,
entire,
really?
first 9 months we were around. I was solely focused on getting to 100 episodes so that podcasters would take me seriously. I didn't even call myself a podcaster for the thing. I was like, I got this thing that I do. I'm talking to my friends on microphones, right? Like, it's not.
It's my hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's well, and I always treated it more than a hobby, but wasn't quite a professional about it. And having won the Content Creator of the Year award in April of 25, that gave us that authority. And it was like, okay, well, you need to start taking it a little more seriously, right? You've been given this thing, right? And it was just the title,
Yeah.
but titles separate people in the business world. And now going, hi, I'm Bubba Startz. I
Yes.
have an award-winning podcast. Seeing what that did for me in the, last 9 months has been
Yeah.
unreal. So now we have that to move forward to, looking to, hopefully repeat this year again with that award. So we kind of have a little bit more authority. Hey, we didn't just fly by night and do it once, but now we've repeated in that position. And this year we're swinging even harder on our content with visions of taking it onto the large streaming networks, right? We're already on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon. How do we get to that next one? How do we get to Prime? How do we get to Hulu and Netflix and really elevate that game? And those things are in the works as we speak, and having a lot of different poles in the water, if you will, to make a fishing analogy
Yeah.
out of it, has been very important to us. And knowing that everything that we've done is building a platform for us to stand on and to look to.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head by saying, having this foundation. The reason why you got those awards is because you are candid, you are, earnestly yourself, you are likable. People resonate with that. And more importantly, musicians, especially indie musicians and budding musicians, they look up to you because they trust you. They truly believe that even if they put their heart and soul in your hands and it doesn't go anywhere, that they have a kindred spirit because you have walked the walk yourself. You're not trying to use and abuse their content in any way. And I have no doubts that, that is a very strong brand voice for you. And you just have to always make sure that you highlight that brand voice and you be that guy on that podium that is doing this with, not for, but with these artists. And the more that you amplify that brand voice, people realize, okay, this is the guy, this is what he stands for. I know that usually they say the man who is king doesn't have to say he's king, but it's nice if the king reminds people, hey, I've got your back. So always hone that brand voice.
Right. And so much of what I've done up to this point it has just been to do the work. I'm very about the work. And I think that's what's very evident, and not always about telling you what we're doing and what we're going to be doing and why you should work with us. I've been a little bit better about that lately, especially building this songwriter showcase tour that we've been working on that will be launching here in March, where really the entire tour isn't necessarily about like the doing of the thing. It's about capturing it so we can show everyone what we did in the past, and realizing that a lot of these like viral moments for people are stuff that had been done a year prior, right? Like people are like catching up always. The world and the content world is always playing catch up. So having realized that, sometime in 2025, where it was like, okay, we just need to stay forward focused, keep doing bigger things. Eventually the funding and the attention and all those things are going to be there. How do we prepare ourselves for those moments the best way possible? 2025 and early 26 now has been a lot of the team building. And it's not necessarily like people that we're hiring, but strategic partnerships, not much different than now finding those other kindred spirits out there, whether they're, independent record label owners like we talked to yesterday, or their marketers or their brand consultants or whoever that is, to find alignment. And I think a key to unlocking those has been our creator conferences, where now we can provide a stage for the educators to step onto, where we can get a little bit of juice and knowledge from them and be working with them without having to just fork over money out of pocket that we don't have right now anyway.
Even still, you wouldn't. I have found that when you can get somebody to believe in your cause, to be a part of you, to bond with you human to human, that relationship and its dividends are so much stronger than the ones that you pay for. Because the guy who you pay for, he has agreed to do X, right? And he is only ever going to do X. He is not looking at things from a broad scope. You paid him to do this thing, and that's the one thing he's going to do. But if you bond with somebody, you have a shared common interest and, dare I say, crusade in your, terms. I mean, or what you are trying to accomplish for songwriters and artists. If you get other kindred spirits like myself, who wants to see the big music burn to the ground, doing everything I can to combat that. We believe in that so much. It's our cause too. And we fight tooth and nail together to make that happen. So even the guy you pay, $300,000 to, he is not going to fight for you the way that somebody who has shared interest will.
And that is exactly what's been so beautiful about the last, not even 2 years. I started this program in like late March of 2024. I was welding. I had quit my job welding at the factory in like February. And I thought I was going to be a rock star, Kortney. I had a bunch of gigs booked. I was playing the big, festivals around in South Dakota and, playing some of the biggest stages that we had around us. I had the 5-6 night runs and got out there and was like, oh, I don't want this. Right.
Yes,
Like it took a few weeks of that. Well, because touring season for musicians is in the summertime. Well, my kids are out of school. My wife works at the school, so she's out of school. Like that's the time that I have to really dig into my family. And I'm missing all of it being out on the road. And it was just like, I don't want this at all. Like I want to do something much different than this. And in the meantime, the podcast had kind of become something, right? It had been, at the very least, it had become a passion of mine. Having these conversations, capturing them in the moment and being able to share them with people, regardless of whether people were listening now or not, right? And that's why I think I came into the whole content game from a much different perspective than a lot of people get into it, where they're looking like their whole goal is just to go viral, right? And to get all of that attention. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to build out a community and an ecosystem and to grow this, knowing that when we get that opportunity, not only are we going to make ourselves famous, but we're going to make everyone around us that is dying for that opportunity famous as well, just by proxy, by being part of our world. And that's the most rewarding thing to me, is knowing that those moments are coming very, very soon. And we're going to be able to look back in, the end of 26 and on through the rest of our careers, and to go, every bit of that work that we put in when everyone was pushing us to, well, it's got to make money, or it's got to do this, or it's got to do that. And me going, I think I know what I'm like. I'm pretty sure I'm doing the right things, right? And I could have nickel and dimed things along at certain points, but it was never the goal to sell out. And it's never the goal to just build something for myself. And I think that takes so much more passion and a bigger team. And I love the crusade term, because that's what it is. This is something that's not ending in a single season or a year. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I'm not trying to retire at any time soon. I'll be 40 in May, and I plan on doing this for another 4 decades at least, to be able to support independent music. And like you said, tear down the big, they're all going to eat themselves anyway. It's crazy to see what's happening in music right now.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that people don't appreciate is doing something like this, even just starting a podcast, which you have so many other things attached to it, is entrepreneurship, right? You founded a business, right? And you had to figure out, we were even before this call talking about CRM systems for emails, for heaven's sakes, all of those things are part of being a business founder. So you go through the same trials that a business owner would go through in the very beginning. And when it comes down to big music, I mean, I still will contract and take certain jobs for big music, and in film, here and there, just depends on what the project is. But they have made bad investment after bad investment after bad investment. And I mean, we've all seen, you watch a movie and you go, what the heck is this? Granted, we were raised on 80s and 90s movies, which, nostalgia kicks in and you're like, this is the most amazing, get to the chopper, is so iconic, right? But we keep watching these movies on like, our TV streaming services, and what the heck is this? Well, it was a bad investment. So it's all business when you look at it. And you started a company, you are adding people to the company, you are getting suppliers by, musicians and songwriters, and things are going out. People will buy those songwriter songs. People will buy into the indie stuff. You may start a revolution that outlives you, just because you gave a platform to these people who were just trying to do something they loved.
Legacy, that's a word that I used a lot in the last 12 months, where it's like, this is my legacy for my kids to look back on and go, hey, that's what my dad does, right?
Yeah.
Because just working in that factory and welding on those machines and being able to walk by one or drive by one occasionally, very blessed, in our local economy here in rural South Dakota, to have like a Wilson trailer. So I built cattle trailers that you'd see on the road. And I'll be like, hey, I know I built that one, right? Like I worked on that.
Yeah.
Or, some, forklifts or whatever from a company called Manitou. And I can go, I built that part of that, but this is so much bigger. And to be able to look at the artist eventually, right now, are we breaking people like Joe Rogan? No, but the goal is to get there. I mean, Joe Rogan's show wasn't that for a decade. Right.
No,
it took a long time, and he was already famous, right? Like,
yes.
so
Right. Yes.
it takes a long time, and sometimes it takes a little tweak on the back end. And, it's crazy for me, MTV shuttering its doors at the beginning of this year and closing down completely. To me, it leaves the door wide open for a community like ours to step in and to fill in that role, because there's so many there's more independent artists now than there ever has been, but the discovery tools are very few and far between. And even those discovery tools are independent in nature as well. So it's about kind of pulling it all together, working with partners like a Music Mogul AI, who's become a great partner of mine, founder Brad Stewart, I talk to every single day, who's building a booking agent, marketing agent to combat the booking, and to unlock that side of it. So we're bringing in and tightening up this team around us to where it's like, no, you come into the scene projects and you are able to elevate, whether it's teaching with our academy or it's the elevation through having all of your business right and then going out on the road. We kind of become a one-stop shop for artists to fall into. And that's what's going to be really cool to see over 2026 grow, is that the dream has been realized. That's what I always wanted it to be, but it took a really long time of like just getting all the pieces together. And now we're actually like, the pieces are starting to fit into the puzzle, and you're going, oh, this is very clear of where it's going. And the tour is a big part of this, where people will be able to finally see like, holy shit, this is massive. And it's like, and I mean, it's taken me 2 years of kind of fitting everything together to get there, working 16-hour days and waking up in the middle of the night and like, oh, I got to design this website, or I got to do this. And oh my goodness, the amount of work that's gone into it. But it's already been so rewarding. We're having artists submit in different major cities. We've had people from Detroit and Atlanta and Austin and Nashville now that are buying into what we're doing. And even if it's only a small handful of artists on this initial tour, it will prove a point.
Oh, yeah. One thing that is incredible is that you have all these artists in different cities. So when I went to university, I got a medical anthropology doctorate. I don't use it now. I mean, I use the influence to make a cool poster, that represents myself and all the brands. And if anybody's wondering why there's a raccoon in a hat, it's just because I'm obsessed about raccoons. But I just had to address that because some people ask what the heck is behind her. But the thing is, when you look at things from a cultural perspective, we stopped hearing how different music sounds in different cities, because everybody was trying to emulate what the big labels said was current. So like mass marketed pop music, right? Everybody was chasing that sound. Taylor Swift in her Eras tour, all the young girls were trying to emulate Taylor, right? Instead of being themselves, Jessica, Brittany, whoever you are. So I am actually excited to see, when you go to Detroit, what does Detroit music sound like? What's in the heart of these artists? When you go to Nashville, what does Nashville sound like when it's outside of the music industry? You know, does it still sound different? Because I think that is probably the closest you will ever get to how the music industry was in the 50s and 60s, is actually sensing the heart and the vibe of the city in each place that you go that's been kind of untouched by major music. So I am actually very excited that you're doing this tour because I want to hear what comes out of it.
Yeah, because it's not, the scene projects are a genreless operation. We don't care what music you play. We just, do you write songs? Do you perform them? Okay, cool. Well, we're going to give you a space to do that. And I'm really looking forward to that as well. The flavor of each city and
Mhm.
the different looks and sounds that you're going to get, and across multiple genres inside of each city, because not every city is just one thing,
Oh
right?
no. Yeah.
I can't wait to get to Austin and the rock music and the country and everything
And the
together that
folk
you're going to
and
hear.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah.
Detroit's another good one too. We'll be there for the Midwest Talent Awards. So we're already bringing a lot of different acts together, the pop, rock, and funk. And, obviously the country music is dear to our hearts, being members of the Midwest Country Music Organization
Oh,
as
of course.
well. But that's just a product of where I am. I've never called myself country at all till I moved to the country. And it's like, well, you better adopt a little bit of this,
It's
and
a
to play that.
lifestyle. Yeah, it's not just music. It's a lifestyle, right?
Right. Well, and I'm very fortunate to kind of live in that now. My father-in-law farms about 1,000 acres out here, so I've been introduced to
Oh,
that lifestyle a little bit, and living in these small towns. To me, it's a value system, and it's
yes.
completely different. And that's what comes out in the music a lot. We deal with a lot of independent country music out here, and I absolutely love the songwriters, and it's why the platform became more important than just my own career. I still play shows and I write music and I release stuff. You mentioned the song I had written for my wife, and performing and doing those things. I don't need to do that to kind of to feel fulfilled any longer. I've done it
Yeah.
long enough and have put out those things. To me, it's much more fulfilling to provide that opportunity for people who haven't been there yet, who haven't had the opportunity to perform in front of thousands of people, and to have that experience. And for me, I'm such like a new experience junkie, right? Where once I've done something, I'm like, okay, cool, did it.
Yeah,
What's
let's
next?
try something else. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's
I
it's
mean,
wild. I don't know if that for better or worse that is, but that's what sucked me out of the touring life with my own band, was that like, okay, yeah, cool. We're playing the same set list again tonight and we're doing the same thing. And it's like, okay, I can do that. I've proven to myself and to others that I can do that. I don't need to do this ad infinitum. Like what there's no juice there for me to squeeze out of it any
yeah.
longer. So with conversations and podcasting now, I'll start a new show tomorrow. Like well, let's talk about these kind of things. And that's the
Yeah.
reason that we have 4 networks and 13 shows, and always doing new things, because I get
Bubba
bored
can't make up
easily.
his mind. Yeah.
No, well, and it's not even that. I'll continue to do all of them too, right? It's not like I put one thing down to go do a new thing. I just pick up a new one and keep going. And for me, there's always people around that can kind of fill in that space.
Yeah.
I'm a starter, right? I'm a spark plug to these situations, but once it's kind of started and rolling, it's very easy for someone else that has that same kind of passion to plug into there and to go, hey, well, here's your thing. Take some ownership of this and run it. And this is your baby now. And
Yeah.
being a little bit of an incubator with, the scene projects and the Midwest Podcasting Network, Midwest Original Music Organization, like all these things that I've started, realizing that eventually you're going to find people that are just as passionate, that would
Yes.
love to just be about that one thing. Because even just being with my wife, who is very like, no, I do this and I'm going to do this until the job is done. And I'm like, no, I'm going to start 500 things and do all of them simultaneously. And I'll finish them, but I'll finish them when I finish them. I don't have to finish
Yeah.
that before I start on the next thing.
Yep. That's it's interesting you say that. We talk a lot about artists wanting to get seen and things, but there really are artists that do not want to be in the public eye, right? And so often is overlooked the songwriter. Just write this music, write this beautiful music that you feel passionate about, and license it to somebody else who maybe wants to be it, because like you said, you are a spark plug of ideas, right? Well, not everybody is. Someone may be a gifted singer. Their vocals are, unparalleled, but they can't write. It's just not in them. There's a block or something. It's just not something they can access to, but they can feel very passionately about music once they start singing it. So this guy gets with this guy, and for once, without them finding each other on Fiverr or some super sketchy, website, now for once you have opened up this area for them. So I really, really hope that there's a lot of cross mingling through your networks of people reaching out to each other. Like, someone super shy may be like, hey, I wrote this really sweet song for my boyfriend. And, it'd be amazing if somebody sang it. And here comes this soulful woman, and she's just got, tear jerking vocals in an alto. And, they meet each other, they shake hands, everything's good. And both people win. So, you're sparking other little sparks that are sparking.
Exactly.
And basically, everything's on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. You set the whole forest on fire, right? You grow it and then you light it up. And it's exactly what the creator conferences are, that it's not just the education, it's the networking. It's putting all of these incredibly talented individuals from all these different walks of music in the room together, having the crossover performances and recording and just building a network of people, right, that are creative. And me, I'm so passionate just about creative people. It's why I loved the West Coast when I was living in Oregon and then going through, California, living on Venice Beach and busking every day. And
oh man,
for me, it was not just the performers, but it was the artist. It was the everyone, and everyone's out there hustling in the same fashion. And maybe in some ways I'm addicted to the hustle a little bit. And, but it's also what has given me the wealth of experience to be able to come at these conversations different. I think that's what makes the scene projects and my interviews different than a typical, someone who's in media talking with someone who's in entertainment, is that I didn't go to college for a media degree, right? I didn't go and learn all these things so that I could just talk to famous people. I am one of the famous people, and it changes the conversation. I think it's why a guy like Rogan has really interesting conversations with other entertainers. He knows that game, right? And that's, I think you're going to see more and more of that. And you do already. I mean, it's not like podcasting is a new thing. It's been around for 20 years, right? But the media landscape has changed. People are completely unplugging from the major TV networks and just cable TV in general now. And the attention is being divided. It's about carving out your space, feel however you want to feel politically. But when Elon Musk came out and said, we are the media, I took it very personally. I was like, oh shit, he's talking to me, and he's talking to you, and he's talking to all these different people that are out there with a voice and with the ability. Our show started on Zoom. Right? Zoom and YouTube. And granted, we, shoot on StreamYard now, and eventually we're going to get into more, heavily produced in front of cameras and, edited things.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And that's what you hit on, is that the evolution of where the scene projects is going is the community aspect. Having all these people together that start working together, and me not having to be like the Papa Bear to everyone and like, you're going to work with this person, just letting it all happen organically, right? Like just get in the room
find
together.
Each other.
Start hanging out, right? Yeah, making some introductions, possibly here and there, but not being like a record label executive would be like, no, we got to put this person this person. This is how we're going to make money. No, you don't have to. You guys do what you want to, because I'm going to do what I want, right? And that's ultimately where I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And I encourage you all to do the same. But if you need a playground to do that in, here's a good space for that. So that's you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the evolution of what the scene projects and our, Momo groups and our Midwest Podcasting Network and all of these different things are growing into, is just that, a place where all these creatives can gather and then just start working with one another. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to look back on in 5 and 10 and 15 years to go, damn, look at this. Look at this group of people that are together and in a room or in multiple rooms, or they're on this tour now that's going throughout the country. And then you get to connect with the people that aren't necessarily, on the tour bus with you, but are in that city waiting for you to land there. I think it's going to be a really awesome thing. And I can't wait to do it. Kortney, I've taken up plenty of your time already today. I appreciate you being on the show. Where can people find you? Where can they work with you? And where can we get more Kortney Morningstar?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn. That is always the best way for people to reach out and ask me a question when it comes to personal branding. 9 times out of 10, I will happily entertain your question and point you in some right directions, even though you're not going to become my client, just because I want to see people succeed. And let's get indie artists out there, get them on the radio, break down the syndicate. Like, go, Bubba.
I appreciate that, Kortney. Thank you so much for taking some time for us today and sharing a little bit of your knowledge. I look forward to working with you, not just personally, but having you in some of our conferences and having you share this in a one-to-many fashion with the people in this network that we're evolving around. And yeah, just looking forward to being a friend for many, many years to come.
Fight the system, Bubba. Fight it.
Well, we're going to. I don't see me stopping anytime soon. Kortney, thank you for being part of the scene.
Of course.